Well, hello and welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Monochrome Podcast, episode 12. We're in season 1, but we are just getting started. My name is Gospel Lee, and I get to be a guest host. I am so excited to be a guest host because I love the SALT team. SALT exists as a resource for church creatives, right? So like you're not out there alone. I know you're probably, some of you guys, you're a one-person team, whatever the case is. You're not out there alone. SALT exists to create a community of church creatives so we can encourage each other, inspire each other, learn and grow together, because we're all doing this together. Even though you work at your church, we are all part of the global church. So SALT exists to serve the global church so that we can grow in creativity and community. It's just a fantastic thing. I've gotten introduced to SALT a couple of years ago. When I found out about their mission and vision, I was like, I'm in. I'll be here. Even if you don't want me here, I'll be here. I'll do something. And so I am super excited to be a guest host for this new podcast. Just another way that we can love on creatives, let them know that they're not alone, give them tips and tricks and encouragement, and remind them that this is all for the glory of God. So, like I said, my name is Gospel Lee, guest host, honored to be here. And I've even got my SALT shirt on. I don't know if you can see this, got the logo on. For those of us that are listening to the podcast, I wore my SALT shirt because I love them so much. I am joined by two of the most incredible folks who work on the SALT team, who serve on the SALT team. We've got JT. I like to call him John Thomas because he's got two first names. It's really boss. So John Thomas is with us. And then we've also got Mr. Keith. For those of us, our audio listeners, Mr. Keith has got this peppered, like silver fox thing going on. Very immaculate hair. I'm like, man, I want to look like him. My wife great. Is a fan. And so I'm joined by some very, very great looking guys who serve on the SALT team. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Keith. Keith is in charge of the content of SALT. So he kind of curates the experience that you will experience when it comes to the workshops and the programming and things like that for our conference, which will be in Dallas this year. So you got to go. Let me tell you right now, if you're listening, this is your sign. This is a word from the Lord. Go to SALT Dallas. You will not regret it. Everybody who's went to SALT Dallas has never regretted it. And you are going to be one of those people as well. So just wanted to plug that out there really quick. We are super, super excited to have you on episode 12. And now we're going to kick it to that man, Mr. Silver Fox. His name is Keith. He's got some SALT news for you.
Oh man, I need you to follow me around, Gospel, and just be like my hype man.
The hype man, yeah.
We all need a Gospel to hype us up.
Okay,
every once in a while.
Yes, Gospel, I gotta tell you, I don't have my SALT logo on, but I wear my SALT logo on my heart, so I wear it around everywhere I go.
Keith, I've been trying to say for SALT, we need to get temporary tattoos because I want to put one on my neck. Really be, Anyway, just throwing that out there. Yeah,
we'll put a tattoo booth when people register for the conference when they show up.
That is next level.
So, switching over to the SALT News segment today, everybody knows, if you've listened to me at all, I'm a film guy. That's kind of my forte in the creative world. I do it in a hobbyist mode and professionally in order to curate content for SALT University. But I was looking at the NAB conference that was it last week or the week before?
Yeah.
It was
when this
recently.
Comes out, it'll have been a while ago, but at the time of recording, it's a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. But this product I'm going to talk about has not come out yet on this release because it is not coming out until June, and it's made by Aperture, and it's called the Infinimat. So let's talk about what this Infinimat actually is. So it is a matte light, okay, very durable. I was watching some tutorials where literally they had it attached to the wall, and the guy kept touching it. He was touching it so aggressively. I was like, don't do that. You're going to break a light. But then he mentioned, he was like, this thing is extremely durable. It's made to take a beating. And he started punching it.
Oh, my word.
It just took the beating. It's completely weatherproof. So I want you to kind of think of it really is just very, very flat.
It looks like a blow-up mattress.
Matte.
Yeah.
Well,
I was
once you
thinking
inflate
bouncy house kind of consistency.
Uh-huh.
It does. It totally looks like an air mattress when you blow it up. But they sell an air pump that is their way of making a little extra dough, I guess. And you attach it to this thing, and you can blow it up, and then you've created a very soft light. It's got the full spectrum of color availability to it, so it's RGB. It comes in many different sizes. It comes in, I think you can buy it in a 1x2, a 1x4, a 2x4, 4x4, 8x8,
wow.
and my personal favorite, the 20x20, which
Yes.
is
Yes.
huge. So here's the cool thing. If you get a 1x2 and you say to yourself, like, I wish I had maybe gone for the 1x4 or something else. The reason they call it the Infinimat is that it is infinitely scalable. So you can buy other mats, and they are made and designed to be attached to one another and to create even larger light. So, we were talking kind of before we started recording that you could take a 20x20, you could buy like 4 of them, and now you've got like, what is that, 80x80? I mean, it's just 20, 40, 60. Yeah, I can do a math in my head. It's huge. And so that's where I started thinking to myself, okay, this is obviously a filmmaking tool, but it also, in certain church environments, certain stages, it could potentially be used in some stage design. It isn't a pretty light, so you wouldn't exactly, it's not going to be like, if you're familiar with their Infinibar, which is a really cool product, but very expensive, which is, I believe, magnetic, and it's got the full RGB, and it looks cool. You can get to do all kinds of cool things that, those, typical, like the LED tubes are able to do. But the thing about this thing is, so we in our studio here have a massive aperture light, and the dome is, I don't know, like it's the size of my bedroom, it's just gigantic. And so when we were doing like SALT interviews for conference, we really were trying to figure out, okay, where do we set this thing up, and we got to make sure the room is big enough. We can't use it in this room. We got to use it in that room. And we really had to think through that because space was such an issue because of how large the depth of this dome is. The great thing about this is you get that same soft light effect, but you can put it anywhere. It's like putting a picture on the wall.
Foot,
it's
maybe.
And it's so easy to set up because the thing about it is that it is as flat as a mat. And then when you choose to blow it up, you blow it up and it fills right to form. It comes with a couple of different mounts. There's like a K mount, an X mount, different things that you can attach to it to kind of hold its frame and be able to move it around. But the reason that I'm mentioning this is because I think what Aperture has really done here is where the bars are so expensive, and we don't know what the cost of this is going to be quite yet, but I imagine it's going to be much cheaper than the Infinibar.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah, exactly. But the great thing about it is it's so portable, and then when you get it to location, it's a quick setup, and you can put it anywhere you want, and you can get that nice soft light feel. And the great thing is say, I like this mat, I want more. You can always scale these things. You can just keep attaching them, or you can put them in different locations and create, a key light, a fill light, whatever you want to do with it.
If you go look at the website, the overhead one is very interesting to me. So
yes,
we'll put the link.
I love
down
the
below,
overhead look.
Yeah,
I
like the overhead one a lot just
booth.
because. Oh, go ahead.
No. Well, I was going to say at their actual booth, they had the 20x20 hanging over the booth. And
talk about
just
marketing.
The light that it created was beautiful. I was like, man, that is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump into this section. We call this "What's in Your Cart." This is where we share tips, tricks, tools, gears. Yeah, it's maybe gears, but multiple gears. Things that'll help kind of propel you and what you do creatively. And so today, for me, what's in my cart is this idea. I remember. Okay. Let me back up. What's in my cart is an idea. It's not a piece of gear that you can buy. So this idea is free. It doesn't cost a whole lot to implement. As a matter of fact, you can implement this idea for no cost at all. But the implementation of this idea, what I've seen personally, it has grown the creativity, productivity, camaraderie, relationships. All of these things have grown, I would say, even in some cases, exponentially from the implementation of this idea. Okay. And again, it's free. Like you don't have to have a big budget. Because I know a lot of times when we talk about gear and things and tips, big folks are like, well, I'm not a mega church guy. We're not a mega church outfit, so we can't afford it. We can't do it. And it's like, no, you can do this at any stage. It's very scalable. You can implement it right wherever you are. And the idea is, we used to call it think tank. And basically once a week, we would just probably at the end of the week, right? Because, the week is crazy when you think about church world and creating and stuff. At the end of the week, the last thing that we would do is we'd spend an hour, maybe 90 minutes, and we just all sit around, pop some popcorn, get out some drinks, water. If the Baptists are listening, just kidding. It's totally kidding. We would just get out some soft drinks. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. We would get out just some refreshments, right? And we'd all sit around, and each member of our creative team would take a turn showing something that they saw in the world that week that inspired them creatively.
I love
what
that.
they liked about it, all these different things. So like people are bringing in, hey, I saw this commercial, or hey, the Grammys was on and they did this, or hey, I was in this place or that place and I saw this. And they just kind of briefly talk about it. And then everybody in the group is like, well, I like that. Or we could implement this in this thing that we have coming up. And it was just this like ongoing kind of like space where we could just share ideas. Because as you know, good artists copy, great artists steal. So like, what did you steal today? Like, what did you see that you saw was awesome? And so what I loved about that was you're doing shoulder to shoulder. Really, relationships grow when we do that shoulder to shoulder time. So if you're building a house or you're sitting across from somebody, you're talking and sharing ideas, there's a chemistry that begins to be developed and a bond. Because when we think about our creative disciplines, a lot of times I'm the video guy, I'm the graphics guy, we work in our silos, right? So like you might just see somebody in passing and then you stay in your room for 8 hours and work on your thing. This provides everybody to kind of come out from their, silos, like it's kind of like Captain Planet back in the day. I don't know if y'all remember. So let our powers combine.
Yeah, never heard of it.
You know what I mean? I know I'm reaching back,
I love
but
Captain Planet.
or Power Rangers, if you will. They all came together, made that big thing. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of get together, put off all the stress of what we've got going on and just share these ideas. Because as you share what inspired you, I'm getting inspiration off of what you shared and thinking about how I can implement something like that into my work and what we're doing. And then when we have creative meetings, like, hey, we could do that thing that we saw in the thing, and so that one meeting every week, it kind of took the pressure off. And again, creativity grew, productivity grew, because it was like, you come refreshed out of that meeting, or you're able to go into the weekend feeling refreshed and not burned out, that kind of thing. And what it did for me personally was it just kind of opened my eyes to the world around me. So now it's not, even though I'm not in those meetings anymore, that didn't turn off. So now wherever I go, I'm just taking photos and thinking of videos. And even when I'm on Instagram, I have like separate files, just for inspiration. And so now that meeting really unlocked the way that I see the world. Now I'm looking at everything creatively. I went to Philadelphia, and there are just giant murals that are painted on buildings. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there looking like, this is incredible. Like, how could we take this mural concept and revolutionize our space? Because church buildings are kind of boring, like they don't, I mean, what would it look to throw something on the side of a building? Not just come to our church, these are the times, but like some, a modern Lord's Supper, right? With all these different people, or, just kind of, that whatever. And so anyway, for me,
I love that. The
think tank, we'll call it the think tank. It's something that's cost effective. You can start doing it this week, and it makes your people, your team, feel appreciated, because like, people have ideas. That's the beauty of Facebook is like everybody has an opinion and they love to share it, right? So if you can create, that's literally how Facebook makes money, right? It's like, I want to share my opinion about pickles, and like, oh, I like pickles, I hate pickles, and so for us to create a space, it doesn't cost you anything, but the returns that you get in terms of the bonding with your team, the creativity, the productivity, they feel seen, they feel heard, and then all of a sudden now you're just kind of looking for, like, your inspiration is everywhere, but now you're just more in tune to capture it, because I've got to bring something to think tank. So what did I find this week? And then it doesn't turn off. And so that's what I would recommend. Again, it's easy to implement and it does bring great returns.
Okay, we're jumping into our Salt U recap segment. This Salt U class is called Storytelling and the Guarantee of Chaos. It's by Jason Daiba, who's a great guy. He does a lot of the writing for our Salt openers, and he's worked with gospel. So I encourage you to go check this out. There's a lot to unpack here, so I'm really going to quickly just blast all the information I can really quickly, and then we can kind of discuss it more in detail. But this is a great course. Anyone who is subscribed to Salt U or is thinking about it, honestly, it's worth it just for this one session. It's really powerful, and I think it could really transform if your church is trying to figure out how do we communicate our message better or our story better or our congregation story better, how do we connect with our community better, this could completely revolutionize how you do that. So I encourage you to go check it out. So he talks about what is story. It's the sequence between tension and revolution. And every church or company has a basic story at play. He gives the example of like a shoe company like Nike or something like that. And the basic story is, I don't want to walk barefoot. I need a shoe, right? But Nike would not sell many shoes if that was the story they told. And so what he talks about is you need to get past the basic story. For example, I would say like the basic story is for the church would be the story of the gospel. We're broken, we're sinful. God sent a Savior to save us, redeem us from our sins. Now we can live in righteousness and in truth, and we need community to do that, and we can pursue Christ and pursue others, right? And that's a basic story. But if that's how you tell that story, it's hard for someone to put themselves in that. And the gospel is powerful on its own, but I think it's our duty to really tell the story well and go a little bit deeper about what that really means. And that's kind of what we spend our whole lives doing after we're saved and we understand that basic story. The rest of our lives is to kind of understand that story better for ourselves and to tell it better to other people. And so get down to the not basic story, get down to the deeper story, move to a story that engages more people in more places at more times. The story should appeal to the cerebral, emotional level and not simply a practical one. So we want to boil down to the raw emotions that people might feel in that situation. Good storytelling allows them to place their work inside of a more universal human experience. So basically what Jason is saying there is if you tell a story really, really well, people can put themselves in it. So he gives a couple examples of some good storytelling, and I don't want to spoil them, but I encourage you go watch this session, and those will be transformative. But he shows a Google commercial, and in the Google commercial, it was a Super Bowl commercial. And I'll link it down in the show notes if someone wants to go watch it. But basically, they don't say anything about Google through the whole commercial. It's this older man trying to remember and walking through remembering his life with his wife, and Google kind of assists him with that, but they never say like, hey, here's the features of Google. Hey, here's when you can use Google. Hey, here's where you can find Google. Hey, this is why you should use Google. Like they never go through any of that. There's no logistics. There's no sales. There's no, hey, here's a special discount if you use it. It's simply just telling this man's story and how Google, this tool fits into that. And it's really powerful because you would think, well, surely we need to tell people when our service times are. And, if we're promoting, Easter services or Father's Day services, we need to tell them like what kind of programs are going to be there. And we need to tell them, what to expect when they arrive and what door to come in and, go sign up here so that we know you're coming. Like, surely we need to say all those things. And Jason says, if the story is told really well, people will find a way to discover who you are and what you do. And I think that's probably the most powerful part of this session is if you just tell a story really, really well and in a way that connects with people, they will figure out a way to learn more about who you are and what you do. And when you watch this Google advertisement, you really get that feeling and emotion. It's not really about Google. It's about connecting with this story. And honestly, like it's such a good commercial. You're like crying by the end, which sounds crazy, but it's so well done. And so I think if we can capture a little bit of that with our churches and with our storytelling in service, or whether we're promoting an event at church or with whatever we're doing creatively, if we can keep this heart in mind, I think it'll really transform our storytelling and help us get the story of the gospel out there in more powerful and impactful ways that stand out among all of this other worldly advertising and things like that. So here's the big takeaways. If you want a better story, appeal to a deeper tension and resolution. So relationship, courage, persistent, wonder, mortality, hope, wonder, those are the elements of a good story. And we have the best story to tell, the story of Jesus. And there are many ways to tell the story of Jesus and find deeper ways to help that story relate to people. We've been telling the story of Jesus every week since the church was created. And so there's infinite ways to portray this story and portray it well and biblically and accurately, but also in a way that connects with people in a unique and special way. And so I would encourage everyone, go check that out. There's a lot more to unpack, and I wish I had a whole podcast episode just to talk about this concept and this idea, but go check it out. It's really powerful. Think more deeply about your stories, and try to find that deeper meaning. L-Acoustics, a leader in audio technology, offers cutting-edge sound solutions for houses of worship. Their Elisa immersive hyper-real sound transports congregations beyond the ordinary with an immersive soundscape, putting everyone inside the message. From cozy to grand-scale sanctuaries, L-Acoustics tailors sound designs to meet your specific congregation or worship space, ensuring quality meets affordability. With L-Acoustics, you'll never have to sacrifice sound quality. Learn more by clicking the link in the show notes.
You cannot overemphasize the importance of story, because stories give us an opportunity to connect with each other. It's probably the oldest thing that we've done in terms of communication is tell stories. Even when we're writing things on cave walls, it's so old that it's almost like in us. Story is in us, and when we tell good stories, it helps us enhance connection, and that's where the magic happens. Because I see myself in that Google commercial, I see myself in Up, and so because of the story. So anyway, you can't overemphasize. And this is the thing. And let's talk about this really quick, because again, the biggest constraint that we have as church creatives is I can't do what the mega churches do. I don't have that budget. I don't have this, that, and the third. That's a very recurring theme. It's very real, and I want to speak to that. But everyone can tell a great story. Everyone can tell it. You can practice it. You can learn it. If you, as your small church, 250 people, if you figure out how to tell the story of your church and what God is doing through your church in the community, all of a sudden that 250 church is not a 250 person member church. It begins to grow. When you begin to know your story and tell your story in the context of the gospel, train your people, your lay people, your staff people, everywhere they go to tell that story, to know that story, all of a sudden it blows up, right? So that's something that you can do right now.
We're preaching
work
now.
On your story. You don't have a budget, work on your story, right? So you just can't overemphasize the importance of a great story. And if you are a small church, if you're a small creative team, learn how to tell good stories and watch everything exponentially grow. That's all I'll say.
Cool. Well, I don't really know what else to say after all that. I mean, that was incredible. Gospel, you have a creative challenge for the church.
Yes. Okay, so the creative challenge is something that I have just kind of in the last couple of years kind of just built my life on, and it's taken my life into a completely different trajectory, I believe. I've been blessed to be a part of things that I had never even dreamed about. This wasn't on my vision board because it was so in another dimension. This one idea that you can implement, the idea is called gratitude. Gratitude is the idea, because what I try to say to everybody, usually, after I've been doing a show or performing, the last thing I say is, I understand that no one in the world owes you anything. So anything you get from anyone should be considered a gift. And so that has been what I've been possessed by for the last couple of years. I remember one time, and I'm really going to try to keep this concise, but I want to try to just give illustrations. I got the opportunity to do a voiceover for a Christian leader's book, and I was at a conference doing a spoken word, and I saw that Christian leader, and I just rolled up to him and said, "Hey, man, my name is Gospel, and I got the opportunity to do the voiceover for your book. I just want to say thank you so much, and thank you for the church that you've built." And that was it. And then again, I got the call to do a voiceover for another book for the same guy. And I sent him a letter this time. I wrote him a letter, say, "Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for the church that you built." And then I saw him again randomly. He's like, hey, I got your letter. And that means a lot to me. That went a long way with me. And I didn't write him a letter because I wrote him a letter because the thing is, everybody says thank you. And so to the point where it just kind of rolls off. Like, you just hear thank you all the time. You should anyway. You hear thank you all the time. But when you sit down and when you write a letter and when you specifically say, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for this. I really did appreciate it. It really blessed me. Thank you, whatever. The fact that you sat down, wrote this letter, put it in the mail, it came through the universe. Like, you weren't expecting that. Like, nobody's expecting to get a thank you card. But when you see something in the mail that's not a bill, not an offer, not a sale, but it's like a handwritten letter saying, in handwriting, saying, hey, thank you so much. That goes a long way, because in our economy, that's so rare. And so the challenge, let me get back to challenge. Challenge is everybody who's listening to this, write one thank you note and send it to somebody and see what it does in them and see what it does in you.
Yeah.
Say thank you, but say thank you in a way that it actually registers. And when you do that, the quality of your life improves, the quality of your work improves, the quality of your relationships improve. Everything improves when we begin with gratitude.
Well, that is episode 12, everybody. I mean, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Gospel, for being here and for giving your input and your insight and your wisdom. Gospel, if people want to follow you or connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, first of all, I should say, number one, I love salt. Like, literally, when you think about not the seasoning, but like the team. I love salt too much, but I love salt. And I believe in the mission and the vision. So it's an honor to be able to lend my voice and my talent. So thank you for having me. You don't really need to keep up with me. I would say you need to keep up with Salt. So follow them on all their socials, because they're going to give you tips, tricks, and tools and a place of encouragement to let you know that you're not alone. Some of the memes that they say, oh man, JT made this one meme. Anyway, the memes are worth it by itself. So follow Salt.
They are good.
If you do end up, having extra time or bandwidth and want to follow me, my name is just Gospel Lee on Instagram. Respond to all my messages. Basically, I use my voice to help people. I use my voice to glorify the Lord. So whether that's spoken word or communicating the heart of God from the word of God, that's what I do. But also, really, on my Instagram, I just try to hype up my kids and my wife, because those three girls are the best thing that God's ever given me. So a lot of it's just a highlight reel for them, and then just kind of some crazy hijinks I find myself in. So if that interests you and you have free time, feel free to do that. But first and foremost, follow Salt, because they're going to help you grow in your walk and in your creative discipline.
So kind. We'll put a link to Gospel's socials in the show notes. So if you want to go check him out, you can. He's really too humble, honestly. I mean, Gospel's always doing crazy cool stuff. He's writing really cool raps for at Passion and like all this stuff. So really just an inspiring person and a great creative person. So thank you so much.
One last thing I want to say. If you're listening, come to Salt. This is the greatest investment that you can make in your creative team. Let me tell you something right now. You might let's say you spend $2,500 sending your entire team to Salt. That $2,500 will pay dividends, not only in the year, but the years to come. So you're like, what's going on? What is Salt? If you're listening to this, Salt is a gathering. Salt is a physical, because we all are connected on the internet. So Salt is a gathering in real time, creating a space and a place for creatives who work in the church to be seen, to be poured into, to be inspired, to be encouraged, to be challenged, to be filled with new ideas. Because if you're a creative and you're listening to this right now, I'm betting all my money that all you do is pour out, or there's a discrepancy in how you're pouring out and being poured into. You're pouring out more than you're getting poured into. So we create for a couple of days a space where you can be poured into and you can feel seen and you can have your problems. Hey, I'm going through this. Oh, we went through that. Do this, do that. And so it is worth it. Drive, fly, do whatever you have to do to be there. Attend online if you absolutely cannot come in person, because online is great, but in person is the real thing. And so you need to go to salt. I've been there twice. I wouldn't try to, tell you something that you don't need, but this is probably one of the greatest things that you can do for your team. The way that you will grow also together, but also grow as a team. It's really worth it. So get on that registration. It's going to be in Dallas. It's coming up in October. They're not paying me to say this. I don't get a cut of any of the ticket sales or anything like that. I just believe in it so much that I said, I'll do whatever it takes to help SALT, because it really is pushing the church forward. It is one of the greatest gifts to the modern church that I can think of. And so I want to say thank you to Luke, JT, Keith, Caitlin, the whole team, the lady that does the sponsorships, everybody that's putting this on. SALT is so incredible. So please, 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 I don't know that I can emphasize enough the importance of getting into a place with people just like you to learn, grow, be inspired, and encouraged. So go to SALT Dallas in October.
Love that. All right. And with that, we will end episode 12. Thank you so much, Gospel.
The extended version.
The extended version.
Yeah. Probably about 2-part version or something.
It's been so good. I hope you guys are encouraged by everything. And make sure to go check out all the links in the show notes. And as always, we will see you again next week.